Welcome to episode 292 of the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I'm Ashley Scott Myers, screenwriter and blogger over at sellingyourscreenplay.com. Today I'm interviewing director Nick Hamm. He just directed a film called Driven, which is the story of John DeLorean. We're going to talk through that film, how it got developed and written, and ultimately how it got produced, so stay tuned for that interview. If you find this episode valuable, please help me out by giving me a review in iTunes or leaving a comment on YouTube or retweeting the podcast on Twitter or liking or sharing it on Facebook. These social media shares really do help spread word about the podcast, so they're very much appreciated. Any websites or links that I mention in the podcast can be found on my blog in the show notes. I also publish a transcript with every episode in case you'd rather read the show or look at something later on. You can find all the podcast show notes at www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/podcast, and then just look for episode number 292. If you want my free guide, How to Sell a Screenplay in 5 Weeks, you can pick that up by going to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. It's completely free. You just put in your email address and I'll send you a new lesson once per week for 5 weeks, along with a bunch of bonus lessons. I teach the whole process of how to sell your screenplay in that guide. I'll teach you how to write a professional logline and career letter and how to find agents, managers, and producers who are looking for material. Really is everything you need to know to sell your screenplay. Just go to sellingyourscreenplay.com/guide. Quick few words about what I'm working on. I'm still putting together my horror thriller mystery project. Right now I'm looking at casting a few of the main roles before I run the Kickstarter campaign. I'm hoping to find some actors who have a large social media following and can potentially help with the fundraising through the Kickstarter. Obviously they have to be good actors and they have to be right for the part, so that's really the challenge, is getting all those things to match up. We literally had thousands of actors submit, so now it's a matter of going through the headshots and trying to figure out who is the best fit for this. We'll hopefully be running auditions in the next couple of weeks, and then we'll do the Kickstarter probably in September, or maybe it'll even drag out into October. We'll see. So that's the main thing I'm working on at the moment, just putting all of that together. So now let's get into the main segment. Today I am interviewing director Nick Hamm. Here is the interview. Welcome, Nick, to the Selling Your Screenplay podcast. I really appreciate you coming on the show with me today.
It's good to be here, Ashley.
So to start out, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up and how did you get interested in the entertainment business?
I was born in Belfast in Northern Ireland, and then I moved to London and then went back to Belfast school there and attended Manchester University and spent my time in Manchester doing plays and learning about theatre. And I'd been obsessed with theatre, so I spent the first 10 years of my life working in the theatre. I was a director, lucky enough to be a director at the Royal Shakespeare Company in London. And it kind of taught me a lot about working with actors, working with writers. Mm-hmm. One of the most formative experiences was working with Arthur Miller for many years there on his work. And I was a young director in my 20s, and I had a great opportunity. So that to me was my main aim when I was younger, was to go into the theatre really and to direct plays, which I did. Mm-hmm. And then as I grew in that and understood how that worked, I kind of gravitated towards film. I went to film school while I was at the Royal Shakespeare Company. I attended classes and I started to make my own movies, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And that took me away from theatre and into television and ultimately into films in the UK.
I gotcha. And so talk about that transition a little bit. It sounds like you are having a successful career as a theater director, and then it sounds like maybe you did some short films on your own, just self-funded them, just kind of to get that ball rolling.
I actually never bothered with self-funding the films. I self-funded theater shows at the beginning just to get myself going and to see if I could, attract actors. But no, I did a little stint at this film school in Beaconsfield for a while, but then I realized that I knew that I always was going to gravitate into film. I always knew, but I wanted to go into the film business with a real understanding of something that I could do, I suppose, better, that I could do uniquely. And that, for me, was the ability to work with actors, to dramatize and craft scenes, and to create from the page something that was dramatic and something that was interesting. But I wanted to put that into a film context. And so essentially, you do start again. You kind of, when you transition, as I did, I guess when I was 29, 30, you sort of go back to, year zero again in some respects. but that's okay. You know, you start shooting promos, you start shooting commercials, you do, you know, anything that you can get your hands on really as a director at that early stage in your career. Because what you want is flying hours. You want to get behind a camera. You want to understand lenses. You want to understand how that works. And then you want to use the two skill sets that you've got, one working in the theater and the second understanding the techniques of filmmaking and put them together.
Yeah.
And to me, that was that union of the two was really, really wonderful. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I can see that is a good coupling. So let's dig into your latest film, Driven. Maybe to start out, you can give us a quick pitch or a logline. What is this film all about?
Well, this film concerns the story of a certain section of John DeLorean's life when he lived in Southern California. And he was attempting to create and make the car that became famous in Back to the Future. And it concerns the relationship he had with a neighbor who happened to be living in the same street, a rather scurrilous scumbag like character called Jim Hoffman, who was kind of unfortunate for DeLorean, happened to be a low-level informant for the FBI, who was sent in by the FBI to Southern California to essentially try and help the DEA and the FBI with the anti-drugs business in the early 80s and the late 70s. Effectively, he was on. Hoffman was. He was kind of working with he was undercover working with a guy called Morgan. One of the guys called Morgan, who was bringing the drugs in for the cartels into Southern California. Now, and as I said, Hoffman was a deeply unpleasant man, and one of life's inherent losers. And so the movie concerns the relationship between Hoffman and DeLorean, and how Hoffman wound DeLorean into essentially a world of deceit, and I think DeLorean went willingly in many respects. But it's kind of a weird, perverse buddy movie. It's sort of their relationship. It's kind of like a movie of two men who are charlatans to the core, both of them, and who, when you have two liars, sometimes things are rather interesting. And in this case, this is a movie concerning two rather adept showmen, shall we say.
So how did you get involved with this project? Was this something that came to you as a script that was written and then you jumped on it, or was it something that you helped develop from the ground up?
No, normally in my films I work with a writer called Colin Bateman. So it's my second film with him. I did a movie called The Journey with him in England, which was about the relationship between two Irish politicians who were on the militant side, head of the IRA and basically the head of the Protestants in Northern Ireland. And this is our second movie together.
Oh, I see.
So we created it from scratch because we believed in the story. We liked the idea of the story. We thought, well, this is a fascinating tale, and actually, no one's done it. No one has told this story in the best part of like 20 odd years in Hollywood. No one. It hasn't gone anywhere. People have tried. Tons of directors have tried to get off the ground, and I think there was a documentary made recently. There's been a couple of docs about it, but there's not really been a drama. And so we were fascinated about why hasn't there been a drama? Why has nobody tried to tackle this? And then we realized when we started to investigate it that everybody had approached the DeLorean story as a biopic. And that was something that we just weren't interested in doing. I think biopics are awful most of the time. I mean, unless the person you're doing is actually completely fascinating, you are going to end up having to dramatize and invent stuff in their life that just didn't happen in order for the movie to work, And so, by and large, we kind of thought to ourselves, DeLorean is not a fantastically savory character. He's not Steve Jobs. He didn't invent something that changed the world. He didn't, he was a showman and a car guy. And he tried to get away and scam his way through the later part of his career, in borrowing and taking money from the British government to build this car in a factory in Belfast. So we knew all that because Colin's from Belfast. I'm from Belfast. We knew the story. We knew what happened. And then when we discovered the story of Hoffman, when we found out about him, we were like, oh man, this is great. This guy's absolute disaster. This guy got done at the age of 21 for hijacking hostages in a Las Vegas casino, right, and threatening to bomb it unless they, that's Hoffman. That all went under the radar later. That all got buried in the court case. So Hoffman as a character became this kind of this really interesting thing that crawled out from under a rock. So we were like, okay, let's do him. Let's work with this guy. Let's reinvent him. We had tried to find him. Obviously, you can't find him. He went into the witness protection program. He's probably dead, although you never know. And I actually at one point put a private investigator on it. We paid for a top level private investigator to go and to try and investigate, where he was and where he came from. And there is very little out there about him. And in fact, some of the photos out there about him are kind of very difficult to get. They're all blurred.
Yeah.
But for us, that gave us a canvas. As dramatists, we could then go, okay, so there's not a lot about him. What do we need? What can we invent? What can we make? And how do we show this story of this car guy who kind of falls into this weird FBI trap to try and make $30 million to keep his car company going, which was that. So that's how we found Hoffman.
I gotcha. So let's talk about your development process a little bit. You guys are developing this story. Are you guys in the same room? And I just kind of like to hear the logistics of the setup of how you guys work. There's a lot of screenwriters that work with partners, so I'm just always curious to kind of give a little bit of light. Yeah. Are you guys in the same room? Are you doing outlines and he's going off and writing pages? You're giving him notes?
Well, as you know, it's achingly boring. For a start, and it's painstakingly. You want to shoot yourself right the way through the whole process. It's the most, as most writers will tell you. It's really, it's difficult. It's time consuming. 80% of the time, it doesn't bloody work. You have a great idea, and then you see the result of the writing of the idea, and the scene doesn't work, so the idea doesn't work. So it's a constant act of compromise and failure. And defeat. And then always, as you're doing these things, you're going, well, nobody's going to make this. I'm never going to get any money. And this is completely academic exercise anyway. And what am I doing? So that's where you start from whenever you develop any movie. And probably most writers and directors feel the same way. How the hell are we ever going to get this made, even if we can get a blood script at the end of it? So you're always in the back of your head, you're kind of trying to work from the place of, okay, let's just do the best we can. So what happens is Colin lives in Northern Ireland, I live in London sometimes, and I live here sometimes. So we would meet at the beginning of the process, and we'd have a general discussion. If you want to get forensic about this, is that how you like it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the more details, the better. I like details.
Okay. He would go into... we'd have a general discussion about it. And the best way for us to start is Colin will write a very early draft.
I see.
He'll blast out, if you like, a kind of long, torturous, massive script with different characters and different storylines and different people. And what I'm always aware of with writers is, okay, what is going to turn the writer on most? What's the character that's going to be interesting for the writer to write? I'm not writing it. I'm, I'm part of the process of creating it, but I'm not a writer. So what is going to make that writer be a better writer? How is he going to? And so a lot of the time with Colin, it's finding the voice of the characters. And some of the times we'll go through 3 or 4 drafts where he'll write scenes, speeches, ideas. And you'll think, well, okay, the character that you really identify with here, the character that you really think is funny is Hoffman, because you can write this scumbag really well. You can write this kind of cheeky, weird, lying, charmer really well. So let's focus down on that. So we'll probably go through, it takes us about a year and a half.
Wow. Huh.
By and large, it's a lot of frustration. But after about a year, we finally get something, and then And then it's also about timing, how long I can have him for, because he's obviously writing other stuff, and how long I can be there for. So you sometimes do it. We started this when we were on Post on the Journey, and we've got our next one as well, so we know what we're doing next.
Oh, okay.
And then we write the next one as I'm in post on this one.
I see.
So as I was editing the Journey, we started work on DeLorean. And then as I edited DeLorean, we started work on the next one.
Yeah, I got you.
So it's normally about a year after I finish the one before I start with him on the next one.
Okay.
And proper. And then, and that's the process. And then a lot of it is Skype.
Yeah.
Skype is a fantastic creative tool. I mean, it's just fantastic because it puts you together and it allows you to function and it allows you to create together in the room without pressure. And sometimes the most important thing in a creative room is silence.
Yeah. How do you guys handle disagreements? If you guys are developing this story and maybe he thought the story should go in this direction, and you think the story should go in that direction?
The writer, he'll never do anything he doesn't want to do. I mean, if you have to push a writer into doing something and they don't want to do it, and then they're very rarely going to write it well. Yeah. So, in the end, a writer always wins. Because they just go, well, I can't write that.
Yeah, I wish more directors thought like that. So now,
because you're just going to make them write something, and their heart's not in it, and then they're not going to be very good. So why would you do that?
Yeah. How?
And then also the time.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
go on, you go.
I was going to ask just how faithful to the truth you guys felt you had to be. This is a very well-known story. I'm sure a lot of people, especially the audience, a lot of the audience for this film is going to be car guys. It's going to be people that kind of at least have some degree of understanding of what the story is about. Yeah. So how much did you feel like you had to be truthful as opposed to being overly dramatic or really, maybe...
Well, there's a good question. I mean, here's the deal. We researched, right? He read everything. He read all the trial documents from the court case. He read the FBI documents. We read a lot. But what people don't know about is Hoffman. That's what they don't know. They know DeLorean and the Coke deal and how the FBI and all the rest of it, but they have no idea of the Morgan Hendrick backstory with the cartels and the DEA trying to stop the drug trade in Southern California, and how it was a complete accident that DeLorean got involved in all that. They don't know any of that. They don't know that DeLorean lived on the thing that made this movie come alive is we discovered that DeLorean, when he was living he had a pad in Southern California. It was placed down in Palmer Valley, right? Weird kind of resort-like sort of place, sort of semi-desert, but very beautiful and rich. Swimming pools, palm trees, golf courses, you get the idea. That was his kind of retreat in Southern California from his New York apartment and all the rest of it. Now, it just so happened that down the road from him, Hoffman had a house. And their kids started to play together.
I see.
They started to play in the street, and that's how they met, and that's how it happened. And that act of the kids playing together brought one of the scummiest people on the planet, Hoffman, right next to DeLorean. And if that hadn't happened, he wouldn't have done the Coke deal. No one knows that.
Yeah.
People do know it, but they don't really know that.
Yeah.
It's not something the family's ever advertised.
Yeah. So after a year and a half, you have this script that you guys feel pretty strongly about. What is then your next steps as far as taking it out to producers and trying to raise the money for it?
Well, I have a producing partner called Piers Tempest, and Piers going to sort of sits over the both of us, really.
I see.
And so when we're ready to go out, we basically call Piers and say, "Here, we're ready. Here's the screenplay. Let's go." So Piers goes and raises the money, and I immediately go in to try and start casting.
I got you.
Because the way we make these movies is through the actors.
I see. Now, was there some talks with this producer, Pierre, before you wrote the script? Like, did you pitch him the idea, say, what do you think about a movie?
Yeah, no, he's involved from the beginning. Now, he knows we're making the movie. Yeah, he's commissioned Colin to write the movie.
Okay. And does
so
he,
he's aware from the
does he
beginning.
give
But
advice? Like this is an example. I get a lot of new screenwriters that come to me with scripts that are similar to this, and I would never advise a new screenwriter to write a period piece about a historical figure like this. But obviously you're more experienced. But does your producer give you some of those notes? Hey, I don't know if I can actually get this movie set up. Did that impact your desire to write it or not?
No, in fact, he's the one that says, "Yeah, let's go do this story," because no one's done that story. So he's aware, and also while we're writing it, he's gauging an interest on the show. He's talking to people. So when we get the screenplay ready, and I work here with WME and Endeavor, who are my agents, they take the screenplay in. They work on it with it. I mean, they don't work on the screenplay, but they then work with peers in putting the money together. And it becomes a very good circle of people, and then we basically send it out to the normal subjects, and as normal, most people turn it down, and that's the way it works. So, it's very rare that you get something and everybody goes yes immediately. All right, and then it's always contingent on something.
Sure. So how can people see Driven? When is it going to be released?
It comes out on August the 15th in North America. It's in theaters, and I think it's also it's released digitally at the same time. Day and date.
Yeah, perfect. And what's the best?
I think.
Yeah, perfect. So, what's the best way for people to keep up with what you're doing? Twitter, Facebook, a blog, anything you're comfortable sharing? I will round up for the show notes.
Oh, I see. Well, I have. What do I have? I have. I guess I think my the Twitter. I think I have an Instagram account. Gotcha. And then what is it? It's
I'll find
I have a Twitter account. I mean, I'm not fantastic.
Yeah, I got you.
Social media, I have to say.
No worries.
It's there, but and then I think I have a website somewhere, nickhamminfo.com or something. I think that's it, but I can't really remember.
Gotcha. Yeah, sounds like you use it a lot, so no worries. I'll find that stuff and round up for the show notes.
I'm not particularly fantastic at that stuff,
no worries.
Always happy to answer questions.
Perfect. Well, Nick, I really appreciate you coming on the show and talking with me. Good luck with this film, and good luck with all your future projects too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk to you later. Bye. A quick plug for the SYS Screenwriting Analysis Service. It's a really economical way to get a high-quality professional evaluation on your screenplay. When you buy our 3-pack, you get evaluations at just $67 per script for feature films and just $55 for teleplays. All the readers have professional experience reading for studios, production companies, contests, and agencies. You can read a short bio on each reader on our website, and you can pick the reader who you think is the best fit for your script. Turnaround time is usually just a few days, but rarely more than a week. The readers will evaluate your script on 6 key factors: concept, character, structure, marketability, tone, and overall craft, which includes formatting, spelling, and grammar. Every script will get a grade of pass, consider, or recommend, which should help you roughly understand where your script might rank if you were to submit it to a production company or agency. We can provide an analysis on features or television scripts. We also do proofreading without any analysis. We will also look at a treatment or outline and give you the same analysis on it. So if you're looking to vet some of your project ideas, this is a great way to do it. We will also write your logline and synopsis for you. You can add this logline and synopsis writing service to an analysis, or you can simply purchase this service as a standalone product. As a bonus, if your screenplay gets a recommend or a consider from one of our readers, you get to list the screenplay in the SYS Select database, which is a database for producers to find screenplays and a big part of our SYS Select program. Producers are in the database searching for material on a daily basis, so it's another great way to get your material in front of them. As a further bonus, if your script gets a recommend from one of our readers, your screenplay will get included in our monthly Best Of newsletter. Each month we send out a newsletter that highlights the best screenplays that have come through our script analysis service. This is a monthly newsletter that goes out to our list of over 400 producers who are actively looking for material. So again, this is another great way to get your material out there. So if you want a professional evaluation of your screenplay at a very reasonable price, check out www.sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. Again, that's sellingyourscreenplay.com/consultants. On the next episode of the podcast, I'm going to be interviewing writer and director Richard Bates Jr. He's a writer and director who just did a cool horror film called Tone Deaf. We'll be talking through his career. He's written and directed 4 feature films, and then of course we'll dig into this new film as well. So keep an eye out for that episode next week. To wrap things up, I just want to touch on a few things from today's interview with Nick. I think it was very telling how he decided to work with the writer and how he developed this project with the writer Colin Bateman. It was simply someone who he had worked with before. So I often get emails from people asking me how they can get in touch with Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg, but those people aren't looking for screenplays from novices. But what people should be asking is, how can I meet the next Steven Spielberg, the guy who will be Spielberg in 10 or 20 years? That's who you want to meet today, like right now. That's the person you're looking for. And the answer is really super simple to answer. The Spielberg of tomorrow is making shorts and ultra-low budget features right now. He's probably doing web series, all the sort of modern low budget stuff that filmmakers are doing. As you listen to this podcast, he or she is out there putting together their next film right now, probably looking for scripts on Craigslist or using a service like SYS Select to find scripts. And building a relationship with those folks now is how you're going to get yourself into a position to work with them when they've moved up the food chain a bit. Now, obviously, the problem is simply that not only is the next Spielberg looking for short scripts right now, so are millions of other people who are distinctly not the next Spielberg. So it's often very difficult to vet these people and figure out who actually is talented and who actually is the next Spielberg. But that's the job as screenwriters that we have. We have to be good judges of character. I mean, we should be pretty good at this because we're writers, we're observant, and we're hopefully we like to analyze people, we like to people watch, and we like to try and understand people. And this is the calculus that you must do when you talk with a producer or a director who is interested in your screenplay. You must size them up. You must look in their eyes and really figure out what you think about them. Do you think they're talent? That's one of the reasons I'm so bullish on free options. When you're talking about shorts or low budget films, you're not going to make a ton of money on any one deal. So to me, the important thing is the relationship building. If you meet someone who you like and you feel like they are talented, bickering over a few bucks is most definitely the wrong strategy. It should be more about the person, the producer, the director, the people you're going to work with. Are they smart? Are they talented? Is this someone who you think could make it to the next level? If the answer is yes, then trying to suck every dollar out of these small deals is extremely short-sighted, in my humble opinion. Anyway, that's the show. Thank you for listening.